Hello friends and lovers, welcome back to Hades 2. Today we're going to talk about the Argent Skull. So this video is going to be a weapon guide. We're going to talk about the aspects, the move sets for them. We're going to talk about boons. We're going to talk about hammers at the very end. Talk about which ones are good, which ones are bad, etc. Let's get started. So real quick, why don't we actually talk about the move set for the weapon first, which is a bit different from the other guides. So your Omega attack for the first three aspects at least looks like this. It's very cheap and it charges very fast. So it's actually pretty good. AoE is also massive too. It's actually a pretty good Omega attack, I guess you could say. The downside to this weapon in total is the fact that you have to retrieve those shells. One of the big things that kind of gets to go overlooked, it did get added later on in early access, so that might be why you're not aware. If you use the special, the shells come back to you from really far away, potentially. You just saw it right there, right? You don't have to be very close at all. You can barely see it on the top right, right? Not quite yet, but that's still pretty far. So make sure you make use of the special. So speaking of the special, it looks kind of like a dash, but it isn't a dash. Doesn't count as a dash or anything like that. The special damage isn't very special, I guess you could say, in general. I mean, it does something, but it also leaves you quite vulnerable if you're trying to hit enemies with the regular special. So I would say for some of these aspects, you really only want to be using the special to help retrieve your shells, basically. I think that would be the majority, the major use of it, I would say. Now, the regular attack, it's pretty good, particularly with this aspect. We'll go over that. Again, you have to just kind of think about using the special to make sure you get those shells back. You're probably better off playing this weapon as more of a close range thing, is the truth. You know what I mean? And I know it's like, what's the point if you do that? But I mean, you can kind of see, like, from a range, it's not bad here. You know, it can work if you get like Apollo's attack on something like this. The Omega special is quite different in the sense that you are actually invulnerable while it is going. It's kind of short in this instance, but you're going to see with another aspect there, it's going to last much longer. You can actually guide it around too. I wouldn't really bother using the Omega special, though. It just doesn't really do that much if you're not using aspect of Persephone, basically. Probably just not really worth thinking about. So, all right, I blabbed enough about the moveset. Why don't we just talk about the aspects here for a minute? So, aspect of Mel, your attacks have more power for each shell fired and not yet retrieved. Power per spent shell plus 12. This really incentivizes you to get a big percentage boon on your attack. So, you really want Aphrodite, Apollo, or Hera basically are usually the best options for the highest percentages. Apollo's a larger area just feels really nice with this too. It should be noted. Now, this is kind of a persnickety one here. It's 68 damage, right? 88 damage. You can see it going up for each shell we've already spent there. However, if you get certain hammers here, well, really it's just one hammer. I'm afraid it doesn't work like how you'd hope. It's kind of a trap, I'm afraid. Wide grin, your attacks fire your shells all at once in a spread pattern. They don't get the power bonus from this aspect. I mean, it's been reported as a bug because, I don't know, I kind of consider it a bug since they're all out there, right? But I guess because you just fired them, I guess it doesn't count. I'm not really certain how it works exactly, how the game calculates it, but the game kind of just doesn't like it. So anyway, about the aspect itself a bit more. Just spam the regular attack, maybe the Omega attack even, especially if you get like Apollo's Legendary. It's kind of fun, right? And you're going to have a pretty good run. I think it's actually a really good Mel aspect. It's pretty simple, you know what I mean? You can turn on auto fire in the options, and that way you can just sit here in like point blank range potentially, and occasionally throw out a special maybe to kind of just make sure you pick up all the shells that you might be missing. It does knock back Mel a little bit for every single attack, as you can see there, right? But I don't know, it just feels really good. It's really simple, very straightforward. You don't got to think about much else, right? Just go all in on those percentage bonuses for aspect of Mel. Now, I said wide grin doesn't work, but that doesn't mean wide grin is actually bad necessarily. The truth is, if you do get wide grin with this aspect and you start charging Omega attacks with wide grin, it actually feels pretty good, surprisingly, even though you don't get the bonus. It's just, I think the anti-synergy should be noted. It's actually kind of cool, but yeah, we'll talk about the hammers later. All right, next up we got aspect of Medea, and you've probably heard me talk about this aspect a lot, you know what I mean? Because it's the subject matter of many topics in the game, since it's probably the highest damage output aspect of the game. It's the best at speedrunning pretty uniformly. Everyone mostly agrees, at least at this junction, you know what I mean? It does really well at high fear because of that damage output as well. It's just incredibly strong. Your attack stays within reach and explodes after landing your specials or after 3 seconds, and you also get attack and special damage plus 90% just from the aspect itself. Think about that 90%. You know what I mean? Think about that 90% right now. That is massive. A common Aphrodite attack boon is only 80%. So you can have basically double that just from the aspect alone. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. So how does this aspect work, or rather, how should you play it? Well, like I said, you load the attack into Mel, essentially, right? And then it explodes after time, or if you use your special and hit an enemy with your special, the attack will explode. You'll see the 2 damage numbers here, like so. I think the big mistake people make is thinking, I'm going to load one attack here, then I'm going to load an attack here, and then here's my 3rd one, and now let's use the special. Don't worry that much about it. Don't overthink it. Here's what you want to do. You want to kind of cancel this animation we keep getting. Every time you load an attack, Mel stops in place, right? We don't like that. We don't want that to happen. Well, luckily, you can interrupt that by using the special. So every time you use the attack with this weapon, you should be using the special right afterwards. I literally slide my thumb from the attack to the special over and over and over again. I press it down. So there's that, And now we don't see that attack loading animation anymore, and it doesn't matter. You can even start dropping your cast in the middle of all this, and, you know, there's no interruption whatsoever. You can also start weaving in your dashes, and it looks like we're double dashing everywhere like we're Zagreus again, right? And it lets you get from point A to point B. Now, this takes some practice, I gotta admit it. It's not necessarily that easy. You're gonna have to get used to it, you know, but once you do, oh my god, it is so strong. I would only really use an Omega attack mostly to activate the Huntress, you know, the Arcana card that gives you plus 50% attack damage, and it is useful to do that, you know. Just make sure you're not at full magic, and then you can start exploding on the attack and the special left and right. So let's talk about boons here. What's the best for it? So Zeus on the special is uniformly kind of considered the best one, but the truth is, this aspect is so strong it almost doesn't matter, you know? So if you get offered like an epic Zeus attack and a common Zeus special, you could just take the attack. It's probably going to feel better for the whole run. Either way, Blitz just feels really nice with this weapon, I would say, with the multi-hits that we have going on there. But a better use would probably be getting a juicy attack percentage, because the base attack of the base damage of the attack is actually quite strong. So like Hera's attack feels really nice as an example there. Ares feels really nice for a particular combo. If you've seen my most OP video, you can do Zeus special to start, then you can get Ares' attack soon after that, right? And then you're going to want to try to aim for Heinous Affront. Inflicting wounds can also inflict all your after you take damage effects, which means you're going to want some of these, I mean, only 2 of these really, revenge boons here, Light Smite and Divine Vengeance. But if you do get those, my god, it feels quite strong. It feels quite strong. So again, start with Zeus, you could get a bunch of Zeus boons. After that, like Double Strike, you know. You could get Poseidon's cast and go for Killer Current, you know. You could get Hestia's cast and go for Thermal Dynamics. Really strong combo there on its own, you know, from igniting these blitzes so frequently, you know. Power feels really nice, too, with this aspect, since we get such a high percentage just from the aspect alone. So power feels like it has more weight to it, you know. It's going to feel really nice. So I don't know, if I were to give a very specific build, you know, I'd probably say go for that Zeus-Ares combination and try that out if you haven't. It is a lot to ask for, and go for that duo boon, right? But yeah, it's kind of hard to mess it up, like I said. Like, everything works here. If you take a Hef attack, it works for the most part. If you take Poseidon's attack, it weirdly works too, you know what I mean? If you can actually do this back and forth, you know, just rock back and forth, basically, on the joystick, and make sure you're just hitting that special button right after the attack button every single time. It's really strong. Next up, we got Aspect of Persephone. Your Omega special is Sprouted and lets you change direction. Boons start with a plus level up to plus level 6. It's not very likely to get plus 6 on a boon, by the way, but, you know, it can happen, basically. Sprouted is damaging effects from Olympians make this last up to 2 seconds longer when next you use it, I guess it says. So you kind of got to explain, you need to deal Olympian damage in order to charge up that Sprouted meter to allow your Omega special to last longer. So what is Olympian damage? It's any damage not caused directly by your weapon. So Hef Blast is Olympian damage. Thunderbolts from Zeus is Olympian damage, like from Storm Ring or from Blitz or from Static Shock even too. Splash damage from Poseidon is Olympian damage. Pretty much any cast damage actually should count for this, by the way. And it does scale up. The more Olympian damage you do, the faster this will charge. It's not necessarily per hit. It's actually, you know, the higher the damage number for the most part. So Hef Blast do work really well with this aspect. Yeah, Hef probably has the best synergy here with this aspect when we think about it, because those bonus palms that you could start with a Hef attack or Hef special are going to be really powerful, and they'll help you charge up the aspect. So this aspect, it makes it really worthwhile to actually use the Omega special more often, you know, but you do need to charge it up, or it feels a lot better to charge it up, because the Omega special is kind of expensive in terms of magic. takes a very long time to charge. Like, that channel speed is rather slow, I would describe it as. But again, you're invincible during that Omega special time, so it feels like a very safe aspect. I mean, it's just fun to get all those levels. So yeah, try it out with Hephaestus if you haven't already. You can get his big cooldowns here, but you can get hopefully a start on lowering those cooldowns. Then you can go for the whole cooldown package that he's got going on here, like Seismic Servo to reduce it even further. You could go Cryo Pounder. Root Awakening is good. Love Handles is good. Chain Reaction is amazing. You know, there's just a lot of cool stuff around the Hef Blast. That's my #1 recommendation, but there's a lot of other options here for it too, you know what I mean? But yeah, ideally you'd get some attack boons that help charge that Olympian damage, so Poseidon's attack, maybe like Zeus's attack would feel a little bit better. Make sure you get a cast that really helps you out, I think, with this aspect. It used to be that you had to use cast damage to actually charge up Sprouted back in the day, but they changed it to all Olympian damage eventually. But yeah, I think that's about it for Persephone. It's just like a really nice aspect. I end up playing it a lot because those plus palms, you know, they just make for a lot of goofy runs, you know what I mean? If you haven't tried it, definitely try it out. Alright, Aspect of Hell. You have Frostmane, which grants the Way of the Valkyrie after your Omega special and Valkyrie attack speed plus 25%. So, kind of hard to explain a little bit here. Essentially, when you walk into a room with Aspect of Hell, you're going to want to use an Omega special, which takes a very long time to charge and is incredibly expensive too, by the way. Then after that, you can see our blue meter is filled, which allows us to continuously attack over and over. If you don't have the Valkyrie buff, you kind of strike almost in a Delta Chamber-esque way, where you do get these triple shots, and it's just not quite as good, you know what I mean? It's not as fast, and you can't strike as quickly. So, again, ideally, you'd charge an Omega special when you walk into a room, then do this, and then when it's out, you do it again, rinse and repeat, you know what I mean? Kind of reminds me of Aspect of Moros in, like, a couple of ways, you know, that you're trying to repeat the Omega special as often as you need to, but one problem with this aspect that I have is that you can't start charging an Omega special or even use a special while one of the heads is already out, which just kind of means it winds up feeling a bit clunky. You know what I mean? You can't have more than one special out. You can't spam the Omega special at all either. You know, you're just constantly waiting for it to come back, and it's kind of hard to really pay that much attention to it either. It's actually, you're not waiting for the head to come back, you're waiting for the buff to go away. Precisely. You know what I mean? If there's just one enemy, you can just do this with the special, I guess, but it's not going to feel very good. It's just not enough damage. So it's not until the buff goes away that you can actually start using the Omega. Actually, yeah, we should read a little bit more here. Valkyrie, your attack fires continuously, but you cannot use Omega moves. Lasts for 3 seconds. When it says you can't use Omega moves, it means all Omega moves. It means you can't use your Omega special, Omega attack, or Omega cast, weirdly even, which is quite strange almost in some ways, but I guess it makes sense, right? Speaking of Omega attacks, just don't bother. Look at how long it takes. Oh, and if you move at all in the middle of that, it resets. I have no idea how you could ever make use of this Omega attack. I have absolutely no clue how you would do it. I don't get it. I don't get it. That's my #1 beef. I actually think I have had plenty of good runs with this aspect. Admittedly, it's a bit tough, you know? It's a bit clunky because it's just so slow in many avenues. You have to charge this Omega special for so long, right? And then you have to stand still for every moment like this, you know? It's not bad, but it's very demanding, you know? It demands a lot of time to charge the Omega special. It demands a lot of magic to get that to happen. And then at the end of the day, in terms of boons, the best boon on the attack is practically always going to be Poseidon, you know? Because you're just hitting so rapidly, and so that many splashes is just going to feel the best quite easily, you know? You don't really want a percentage boon. Hestia is fine on the attack too. She's fine. And then after that, there's kind of like nothing. You know what I mean? I think that's my main issue, is it feels quite narrow. In terms of special boons, Hera is amazing on it. And you'll probably find that when you finish a run with Hell on the damage meter there, it's going to show you that the Omega special did like a lot of damage. It's actually very, very potent. And I almost wish like I could dive more into that. But again, you're kind of just waiting for it the whole time. Like, you can't really force the special to do that much more damage. You know, you can get certain hammers and stuff like that, but you can't really have a Omega special oriented run. At least it doesn't really feel that way. You're always going to have to supplement it with the attack because you just can't use the special while one's already out there. But yeah, Hera on the special is really good. Zeus feels quite good on the special too, I would say there. So those are good combinations for the special. Poseidon on the attack, go for his legendary boon, and then Bob's your uncle, basically, you know? All right, let's talk about hammers here. We got bolstered array. Gain +2 shells. Can't get it with hell since hell doesn't use shells, right? It's more of a quality of life upgrade than anything. It does have a synergy with Aspect of Mel, so it's definitely not bad for Aspect of Mel. For the other aspects, you'd probably want to avoid it most of the time because if you're using the special to get your shells back, you shouldn't really feel it too much. But yeah, it's kind of nice on Aspect of Mel at least, but there are still better hammers. Fetching array, your shells fly back to you automatically and 100% faster. Is kind of whatever. Again, it's another quality of life upgrade more than anything, and this has kind of stuck around. There used to be a time where this felt super convenient, but then when they added the ability to get your shells back by using your special, it really got dropped down several notches because it just doesn't feel super necessary. It's convenient, but there's so many better hammers that will just straight up give you more damage or just at least give you some damage, you know what I mean? So, kind of mediocre is how I would describe it. Melting Break, your special deals +600 damage to armor. I mean, pretty potent for a melting hammer, I will say, but you're probably just not going to want to take it that often is the truth, you know? This would be like a good first hammer if you haven't faced any mini bosses yet. You could get through armor very quickly. I mean, these melting hammers are always good, but they don't necessarily feel that good when your main opponent or the main barrier to winning is going to be the final boss and armor kind of just doesn't matter, right? I think that's the main issue there. Wide Grin, super funny hammer. You should definitely try a run with it, but for pretty much every aspect, it's usually going to be a mistake. You can definitely get some goofy stuff going on. Like, I've had some crazy damage, but it was mostly because of Apollo's Legendary and not really that much because of Wide Grin. But when you think about it, allowing you to land 5 Omega attacks at once, even if there's sort of, it's just doing it all at once. It just looks cool, right? Delivering all that damage at once instead of spread across several seconds, I don't know, it's just super cool, right? But nevertheless, it is probably a detriment to most builds, so I wouldn't really recommend taking it. It's terrible with aspects of Medea. It's a mistake. Do not do it, because you're just going to be waiting for those attacks to come back way, 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 way too frequently, I'm afraid. Rapid Driver, your specials are 35% faster. I mean, you can use it with Aspect of Hell. You can use it with Aspect of Persephone, but there's usually better hammers, so you typically just kind of a little mediocre, you know what I mean? It really only helps with your Omega special channel speed, too, when you think about it. It doesn't really do anything for the regular special, right? Colossus Driver. Your specials have +30 power and you take negative 30% damage while using. This one's actually really good. +30 power feels like a lot. It's really good with Hell. It's really good with Aspect of Persephone. And it's pretty good with Aspect of Medea, too. So this is actually one of the better hammers. Kind of one of the unsung heroes. I don't even think about the negative damage taken, to be totally honest, because that +30 power is just so good, really. Mega Driver, your specials launch you ahead faster and deal +50% damage. Kind of weird, honestly. It just feels weird, and it doesn't feel like it's really worth it. I'd skip it pretty much every time. Twist and Crash, your Omega Special projectiles fire outward. Wait, what? After your Omega Special projectiles fire outward, they fire inward. Amazingly strong, or rather surprisingly strong, with Persephone and Hell, So this is actually a pretty good take for both of those aspects. I don't know if I'd call it like S tier, but it's really, really good. You know what I mean? I'd probably put it... Oh, it's close between Colossus Driver and that one. I don't know. Ideally, you'd get both of them in a run, probably. I can't tell which one would be better. I can't tell you. I can't tell. Boosted Ignition. After your dash or specials, your attacks are faster and have +15 power. They really mean your next attack or Omega attack. I know it's kind of... The wording is a little funky here, right? They really just mean after you dash or special, your next attack or Omega attack gets +15 power. So that could mean just one shell. In other words, this is outlandishly strong with Aspect of Medea, where you're constantly specialing after attacking, right? So every single attack is basically going to get +15 power if you play the aspect as I indicated there, right? So really good there, but kind of just nothing for the rest of them, honestly. Volatile Array, whenever your shells land, they deal +50% of your attack damage around them. It's alright, It's okay. It's not bad. I just don't know if I really notice the damage all that much, you know what I mean? I just don't really notice it all that much. It does work even with Medea, at least in theory. I think you pretty much always get the damage from it, even if you're picking up the shells almost instantly there. But it's a bit lower in the totem pole because there's better ones, I think. Possessed Array, and now this is the juice here. Your shells fire your Omega attack whenever retrieved, but make you lose 25 magic. Insane. Just absolutely insane. This is one of very, very, very few things that indicate that you lose magic. You do not spend magic, you do not use magic, you lose the magic. Meaning that this hammer does not contribute towards hexes, it does not contribute towards like heartthrobs, it does not contribute towards Cinerary Circle, it does not contribute towards Righteous Pike from Athena either. So those things that require you to spend magic, this doesn't really help, basically, in other words. But think about this, you know what I mean? Think about it. An Omega attack deals how much damage? I mean, it depends a little bit on the aspect, right?
You can hear me, can't you?
But if you're firing that and you get an extra 180, more than that really, for every time you pick up a shell, so, you know, you'd be throwing out a regular attack or something like that, right? It's just insane. It's just insane. It's an absurd amount of damage. Now, you need a lot of magic regen to support this, obviously, so basically Born Gain with a ton of max magic is the best. This works with pretty much all the aspects, all three of the aspects that this is going to feel insane with, and you just start spamming the attack if you can support the magic use again. Flood Gain does kind of work with this, but only kind of. It's like it's free when Flood Gain buff is up, but then since you're losing magic and not spending it, you don't get the magic back. It's the best way I can explain it. So it kind of works with Flood Gain. So the best magic regens for this are definitely Born Gain. Ionic Gain is okay, just kind of a little bit annoying. Cardio Gain's okay, especially with the aspect of Medea, you know. It's probably like the second best if I were to guess. After that, yeah, I don't know. The rest are kind of annoying in their own way, right? Because you're just spending so much magic so quickly. But yeah, there's really not much else to say. If you have like Apollo or Aphrodite's attack, it's just going to sing, baby. It's going to sing. Lumia Ignition, your attacks gain plus 50% damage and blast size over 0.7 seconds before they explode. So I think it's saying, this one is kind of strange, right? The way it's worded. But I think about it with the aspect of Medea where you load the shell in, right? So it's gaining some blast size and damage over that period of time. It's okay. You know what I mean? It's okay. It's one of those kind of medium hammers that you kind of end up settling for potentially there for most of these aspects. It's just kind of all right. I like it more for the blast size than I do for the actual damage because it's just not that much. We're on to the hell-specific ones. Venerated Relic, your Valkyrie form lasts plus 3 seconds. So weirdly, I think this hammer is a bit of a trap. You know what I mean? So it does double the length of time that the Valkyrie that the Valkyrie buff lasts. You know, it goes from 3 seconds to 6 seconds, so that seems really good. You can just hold down the attack button for longer. However, that means you're not allowed to use your Mega Special for twice as long. And I think that's bad, to be honest. I think that's bad, because I think this aspect, you really want to be using that Omega Special as often as you can. It deals a lot of damage, and hopefully if you got the right boon on there, it's going to give a lot of utility, too. So I think this is almost a trap, truth be told, because, you know, you probably just want to be using the special more often. So, I don't know. I would say possibly avoid it. Leering Glance, your attack shots bounce toward +1 foe and deal plus 15% damage on the successive hit. It's okay. Yeah, it's just a nice one, you know, especially if you get that Poseidon attack. It's pretty good, you know. Runic Driver, your specials fly faster and deal plus 15% damage for each foe struck. This one I'm actually not really certain about. I'm gonna be honest. I'm kind of out on this one. So if you got an idea of how good or bad this hammer is, I would definitely take note of it. But it's not gonna let you use an Omega Special faster because, again, it's based on the buff time, not on how long the Omega Special is necessarily out flying around. So even if it comes back to Mel faster, it doesn't let you use an Omega Special faster, right? But yeah, this one's kind of interesting. For each foe struck, I imagine it might actually get quite high in certain chambers, though. I'm picturing. Garmer Gaze, your attacks shoot 25% further and deal plus 25% damage. It's okay. There's usually better things, though, I would say. I don't think the distance really makes that big of a difference, honestly. And plus 25% damage just isn't that much, you know? Helheim Charge, horrible. I'll admit, I still haven't actually completed a run using this hammer and trying to make good use of the Mega Attack. I did try once, and it just straight up didn't work out, you know what I mean? Just like straight up, couldn't complete a basic run with it. So, I don't get it. I don't get it. You know what I mean? It sounds like it should be okay, because the Mega Attack does hit relatively hard, but it's just not enough. It takes too long. It just takes way too long. So I certainly can't recommend it. All right, everyone, that's the skull. We only got one weapon left after this. If you like this video, like, comment, subscribe. You know what we asked for. Thank you so much for watching. I'll have more guides in the playlist linked in the description if you need more help with Hades 2. Also, feel free to ask questions or, give me your own ideas of how to build out some of these aspects or, thoughts on the hammers, Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in another video.